Hey, welcome to episode 4 of Drive Hard, and today's the map show. I'm going to be talking about GPS use, how to keep off of a Jeep road, how to use a paper map for highway use. What else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about interactive road maps. We're going to talk about other interactive maps, as well as we're going to do some more movie, music, and book reviews. And we'll see what else happens. But welcome to the show. Today we're going to follow a couple partially on their road trip. I've watched their video, and their plan was to drive from Denver to Rapid City, South Dakota. They're in their RV, and they are pulling a car. Now, if I were to go up to Rapid City from Denver, of course, I'd probably want the fastest route, and that would be straight north up I-25 to 90 East, right into Rapid City. But being that our couple is on vacation and they're in their RV, they wanted to take a more scenic route, and they didn't specify, but I believe they were going to be taking 85 north out of Cheyenne, which would take you to Torrington, and you would continue up 85 into Rapid City. But that's not what our couple did. Now, if you look at a GPS at Torrington, Wyoming, you can zoom in pretty close and find a country road called 159. 159 doesn't even show up on a paper map, but on the GPS it does. And depending on what your GPS settings are programmed to, like shortest route, it could very well take you right up an old country road, which is exactly what happened to our couple. As you can see, the couple seems to be on a decently paved road, but not too long after they end up on a dirt road. And soon after that, they end up on a washboard road.
We have driven from Denver to Rapid City, South Dakota a year ago. So we just got in the coach, put the destination in the RV GPS and started driving, having a conversation, relaxing, enjoying the drive, and just following what the GPS told us to do without really thinking to question it.
Yeah, it worked last year. Why wouldn't it be the same this year?
Right, so it wasn't until we were on this road that I did notice that the scenery was different to last year, but it was really beautiful. And then we hit gravel, and that's when we started to think, well, maybe it's just a short section, but then it just kept continuing, and
Suitable for much of anything. So washboarded right here. It's ridiculous. You can see them.
we never hear dishes around. Oh my god! Ah! Ah! Smells like our house is falling apart. You okay?
So over this right now.
A few things the couple could have done to prevent this from happening was before they even left on their trip, they could have followed the route that they were going to take and make sure that their GPS was following that route. They could have checked it with a map to back up what the GPS had to say. I like to write down my route numbers on a sheet of paper, so if I lose my internet connection or my satellite connection, I can continue on with confidence. There's a lot of things that can hitch up your GPS while you're out in the middle of nowhere. Here's a whole list. Here is my road atlas. I like using the spiral bound variety just because it's neater, easier to use on the road. I do travel solo a bunch, so it's nice to have the atlas rolled back to where I need it to be. If you're not familiar with atlases, everything's done alphabetically by state and then by city. Here is the entire United States, and you're pretty much seeing all of the highways and major state highways. We're going to zoom into Colorado here in just a second, and you're going to see more detail. You've got more state highways to see, more red roads, and you're starting to see some details of parks and forests. And then we're going to zoom in just a little bit more into the city of Denver. Like I said, it's alphabetized by city toward the back. You're going to get more detail yet. You can see neighborhood blocks and different areas like Lakewood, Aurora, Englewood, etc. Interstate highways, toll roads, new roads, other multi-lane highways, principal highways, and other through highways. Anything else you're going to want to stay off of unless you're prepared for it. Get to know your road shields. They can help you identify what type of road you're going to be on. Now we're going to look at Wyoming, and particularly the eastern portion of Wyoming. I am going to illustrate the interstate blue highways. And next, I'm going to identify some of the red state highways. As long as you stick to blue and red, you're not going to get into any trouble. Now for some numbers. Odd numbers run north and south. Even go east and west. Exit numbers match mile marker numbers, and mile markers start with 0 and get higher as you travel north and east. Texas 0 starts in Laredo and ends up at 504 in Gainesville, Texas at the Oklahoma border. Know your numbers, and you're probably not going to get lost. Now for our last lesson of the day, calculating miles between points. As you see, that's circle 8. That is indicating 8 miles between the state line and Torrington, or those 2 red arrows that you see. Next is Torrington to Ingle, and that's 10 miles between the 2 red arrows. I think you're getting the hang of this already. All you have to do is find your 2 arrows, identify that number in between, and you've got the mileage. From Lingle out to I-25 at exit 92, it is 38 miles. Just knowing these kinds of little tricks can prepare you for the road in case your GPS conks out on you. Identifying the road you're on, how many miles between, is very valuable. Every day people are getting stuck on roads they shouldn't be on because they blindly followed their GPS to wherever it took them. Sometimes entire groups of people follow each other into a muddy field just because their GPS said it was going to be the quickest way. Don't rely on your GPS. Use it as a tool that guides, not as something you should follow to the letter. Don't make that right turn onto the snowmobile path. Trust me, it's not going to end well. Now it's time to review. Check your routes before you leave. Compare your GPS map to a paper map. Odd numbers go north and south. Even numbers go east and west. And finally, blue and red roads are the way to go. Make sure you know what you're doing if you hit dirt. It's music time! The Orb is one of my favorite electronic bands. They hearken from the day of the rave, but I never attended a rave where they performed. I'm just a big fan of theirs, and I like to drive to their music quite a bit. I have all of their album releases, and the reason why I like them is because they are just straight up music with some vocal samples. There's nothing to get in the way of letting your mind kind of wander around all the different layers and tones that they use. I like to listen to them a lot while I'm driving in the desert. They work really well in the mountains, and they are especially fun to drive to at night. It's that beats per second thing that gets your gas pedal pushed down all the way. The Orb's trance-like beats help set the pace as you barrel down the highway, and the landscape becomes more colorful with loops and samples unfolding before you with each mile. My favorite albums by The Orb are Orb Live 93 and The Orb's Adventures Beyond Ultra World. There are many other albums by them, but that's a good place to start. Pick them up wherever you buy your music. Here's my book review. This is the best book you're ever going to buy. The end of story. It's the Road Atlas. The Bible of the road. Okay, what we have here is Rand McNally's Trip Maker. It's a standard trip planner. It works on your phone as well as on a desktop or a laptop. You'd have to check about other devices like iPads. Of course, you punch in where you want to start your trip, where you're going, and we're calling this your mom's trip, and we're going to avoid toll roads. Punch in the right Cleveland, create trip, and behold, you have a line from point A to point B, or from 1 to 2, as it were. You have the ability to punch in things that you might want to see along your route, like rest areas. It's always good to know where the next rest stop is. You can set your parameter to be 5, 10, 20 miles out from either side of the highway. It gives you mile markers, exits, etc. Okay, we have Road Trippers. It's another decent map planning program for many devices. Same concept as the map I showed you just before. You can set your parameters. I've got it set to 20 miles on either side of the map. Hit camping and RV sites and boom, they all show up. When you click on the place on the map, it's going to bring it up on that left-hand corner box, or you can click on that left-hand corner box and it'll bring up the campsite. It's got some decent controls. If you want more controls, there is a fee for membership. Whether or not it's worth it, that's up to you. But this is one of the tools that I use when I am thinking about planning and just want ideas on where I might stop along the way. Okay, here we've got MapQuest. Same concept as the previous two, but some people like to use MapQuest. Not my favorite platform, but there it is. This is one of my favorite interactive maps. This is the National Forest map. It's got a lot of neat features on it. You can plug in campsites, trails, other areas of interest, and bam, it pops right up. There's a lot of stuff going on in this map. I highly recommend checking it out and exploring all its features. This is a great map if you want to figure out where you want to boondock out in a national forest, say out in Wyoming or Montana. Just a wonderful, wonderful map. This feature is pretty cool. It's going to show you where weather watches are, fire activity, which is a big deal when you're hanging out west. Yeah, check out the National Forest interactive map. Definitely recommend this guy. Scribble Maps. This is a very detailed map. I'm pretty impressed with it, and I just discovered it. So I have no idea of its capabilities, although it looks like it has a little bit of a learning curve. Possibly something you want to get into if you make your own maps. Yeah, looks like a really cool utility to have access to. Scribble Maps. Like the name, too. Atlas Obscura used to be a trip planning map application, along with the feature of being able to search things like 55 cool, hidden, unusual things to do in Hawaii. You can make lists of places you've been to, places where you've already been, and it's just a neat website. And they also have an application for your devices on how to find some off the beaten trail things. Yeah, I like it. I liked it better when they had the interactive map, but I still like the program enough to mention it here today. All right, Bureau of Land Management. They have a little library with some great maps to some public lands. It's definitely a great little resource, and there's just a lot of information going on in here. Definitely check it out. They're all printable, of course, and the detail is great. They are big images, PDF form. There you go. If you're going to Hawaii, I recommend at least checking out the mile marker map of Hawaii. It's a project, and I totally forget the guy's name, but this individual set out to make this awesome creation. Yeah, the mile marker maps of Hawaii. The maps of Big Island, Maui, and Molokai have all been miled. This is the NOAA, or NOAA Portal, to some amazing maps. They deal with everything earthly, from tsunami maps to glacial maps, all kinds of neat stuff. I highly recommend checking this out, especially if you're going to be in regions you're not familiar with, as far as seasonal stuff like hurricanes. This resource is a really handy thing to have. The wind map. It's just a cool map that shows the wind. And there's the Foliage Map. This one's from 2020. Check out the link later on in 2021 and you'll start to see the predictions come fall. And finally, the flight map. It's just a damn cool map to mess around with. That's all I got to say about that. And last but not least, Radio Garden. The wonderful blend of finding radio stations with interactive map use. It's just a cool program. I'm sure there are apps for all your devices. This is on my desktop, and I've been messing around with it a bunch. I can't even tell you the amount of radio stations there are out there. And this is a cool way to find them. All right, I think this wraps up the map show. Well, we're going to have to do another one in the future. There's more things to be said and more things to show. Hey, thanks for tuning in this week. I really do appreciate it. Next week, I'm not really sure what's going to happen yet. I have 2 exciting people lined up, but I'm not sure when it's going to get scheduled. So we'll find out next week.